We got a foggy one this morning. Still very mild here. We're into sort of November now, first week of November, and it's still in double digits positive. Anyway, not here to talk about that. What I am here to talk about is my reaction to an interview that I was listening to this morning. And it was a guy from, it sounded like West Lancashire, who was being, East Lancs actually, I think, who's been interviewed by two Yorkie brothers. So what were they talking about? Well, most of the conversation was about how history is actually different to what we've been taught. Oh yeah, and then the other thing as well is that the Eskimos are responsible for all the world's problems. So the guy being interviewed, he starts going on about the Noahide Laws and how it's going to be really terrible because these Noahide Laws are going to be imposed on us by the satanic big club. So this conversation goes on for a while. He's just basically saying it's going to be bad, it's going to be really bad. And then after about 15-20 minutes, maybe even longer, one of the brothers that's doing the interview, and he says, oh well, can you tell us what the Noahide Laws are? And he kind of manages to spell it correctly, but then he goes, oh I'm really sorry, I don't know what they are off I've not memorized them. So for me, straight away, I think to myself, I've been listening to this kind of whilst I was doing my morning kind of calisthenic exercises and stuff, and I'd probably been listening to it for about 30-40 minutes at this point when he kind of drops that bombshell. So this thing that he's been talking about, he actually doesn't even know. He's just admitted he doesn't even know what they are. He can't tell me, or the interviewer, what the Noahide Laws are. So I thought to myself, that's what I'm going to do a video on today. What are the Noahide Laws? So yeah, I'm going to tell you what they are. So there's 7 laws. And they were dictated to Noah by God. So they come from God. So what are they? In no particular order, I'll tell you. Number 1, don't murder somebody. So does that sound like a good idea to you? Don't murder somebody. Is that good? Is that a good law? Or is that a bad law? You tell me. Second Noahide law is don't rape somebody, don't commit incest, and don't commit adultery. So that's law number 2. So what do you reckon? Is that good or bad to tell people that they shouldn't do these kind of what I would say are pretty dodgy things sexually? Good or bad? Third one is don't steal. What do you reckon? Good or bad? Stealing? What are we up to now? Number 4, don't worship idols. Yes, what does that mean? Well, basically, I suppose it could mean religious idols or symbology of some sort. So I've always thought about this, in the context of Christianity, and the cross and all of that, and elaborate ornaments at church altars and stuff like that. But I think idolatry can also mean other things too. It can mean worshipping, I don't know, David Bowie and dressing up like him and stuff like that. These people who are obsessed by particular pop stars or film actors, and they seek to emulate them. They hold them up as false gods, little gods with a little g, lowercase. According to the Noahide Laws, that's not a great idea. What do you think? Good or bad? fog coming off the sea, sea mist, whatever it is. Number 5, don't curse God. Good or bad. Some atheists and agnostics, they might not, I don't know, they might not think that that's a bad thing, I don't know. This morning I had quite an interesting message left for me by one of the viewers of my channel, and basically said that because I believe in, or because I reject the idea of the Big Bang and I believe in God, then I'm scaremongering. So to that, I just kind of like just do what I normally do and say, you know, something went bang, we don't know where it came from, we don't know why it went bang or what caused it to go bang. And you know, honestly, at this stage, if you still believe in evolution and the Big Bang theory, you're beyond help, I think. Anyway, it just seems, from my mind anyway, it just seems kind of a fairly sensible thing to do, is to not curse your creator, the you know, the Father in heaven who created all of this stuff, including that the seagrass behind me and the sand that I'm walking on. And what I'd say is that since 2020, again, I've heard other people say this, and I believe this too, that evil presented itself self-evidently from 2020 onwards. It was right in my face, it was right in your face. And I think, you know, it just became, if evil exists, the opposite will also exist too, love and truth. Good, for want of a better word, that will also exist too. Number 6 is don't eat flesh from a living animal. So that's a bit bizarre, like, but I suppose it would be, as far as I'm concerned, that sounds like a fairly sensible idea. That although I eat meat, I'm a carnivore. I just that's what I eat animal products, but I don't believe in just being cruel to animals, even annoying dogs. You know, just for shits and giggles. You know, it's not good to inflict pain on animals. It's okay to eat animals, but it's not good to just inflict unnecessary pain on them. They're a source of nutrition for us. And number 7, the last of the Noahide laws, is that we're to create courts of justice, so that the other 6 Noahide laws can be implemented. Now, a couple of things here. Number 1 is that the Noahide laws are meant for all of mankind, not just for Jews. So that's the first thing to understand. Again, what I would urge is for the people, again, we're coming back to this phenomenon of researchers who do no research. So if you're going on and on and on about how bad the Jews are and whatever, and the Noahide laws are terrible and all the rest of it, well, the first thing you need to actually do is a little bit of research. So what I want you to do now is go and check this out for yourself. What are the 7 Noahide laws, and have I told the truth about them? Find out for yourself. Double check. Second thing about courts of law and stuff is, obviously at the moment the legal system in Britain, I don't think that that's kind of functioning, is it? Because the Noahide laws are being broken in the UK left, right and centre, and the legal system seems to be supporting the law breakers rather than penalising them. Is that inevitable? I would say no, it's not. And, you know, for me, an ideal legal system would be one where you have juries consisting of ordinary people. That's the most reliable method of justice, definitely 100% trial by jury. And that's what we have to reintroduce once this nightmare is over. So the next thing to say then, these Noahide laws, you know, it was this contention by this person that was being interviewed that the Noahide laws are being followed by the satanic globalists, and it's going to be really terrible, right? Because they're going to impose the Noahide laws on us. Now what I'm going to do is just explain to you guys why the elites are actually breaking the Noahide laws. It's not that they're imposing them, it's that they're breaking the Noahide laws. So if you think about murder, well, do the elites murder people? Of course they do. You know, that's what the period of biomedical fascism and the coerced medical experiments, that's what it was all about. It was about murdering people. So rather than the elites imposing the Noahide laws on us, they're actually breaking them themselves. You know, again, thinking about murder, do the elites kill people by starting stupid wars? You know, go off and walk across this patch of land and get gunned down by machine gun bullets, the Somme 1916. Of course they do. Do they use drones to kill people? Of course they do. That's called murder. And that's against the Noahide laws. So rather than the Noahide laws being imposed by the globalists, what's actually happening is that Noahide laws are being broken by the globalists. So, as I said, another one of the Noahide laws is about, you know, don't rape people, don't do incest and all of this kind of stuff. So, do the globalists, the satanic elite, do they break the Noahide laws in this regard? Of course they do. Of course they do. It's not that they want less of this, they want more of it. Rather than imposing the Noahide laws, what they're doing is repeatedly breaking this aspect. It's them that does all the incest and rape and all that other horrible, disgusting stuff. Don't steal. Well, I think that would be a great idea if we imposed that Noahide law and we had leaders, prime ministers like Keir Starmer, who impose that. Would that make life in Britain better? Don't steal? Of course it would. But again, what's actually happening is, rather than the Noahide laws being imposed by the people that govern us, the opposite is happening. They're breaking that law. The main thieves are the government. They're the ones that send you a bill for stuff that you never asked for and then threaten to throw you in a cage if you refuse not to pay them what they say you owe them. And of course, they're the greatest thieves of all time. You know, they're the people that have set up the banking system. They're the people that have run fiat money that causes inflation, that is a way of stealing your income and wealth. Don't worship false idols. The elites do that all the time, don't they? All the time. So it's not like they're wanting to impose the Noahide laws. What's happening is that they're breaking them. They're the ones that set up X Factor. They're the ones that set up all the kind of the other, what Rastafarians would call Babylon, false gods, for us to get distracted. They're the ones that are all about creating the materialism, status, ego, and getting people distracted by pursuing shallow materialism, these false materialistic little gods with a little g. Another thing I'd encourage you guys to do is do a compare and contrast job. I could do it for you on this video, but I think there are some people that would benefit from doing some research themselves. You know, particularly these researchers who do no research. They actually start needing to, you know, walk the talk themselves. So to them, I'd say, what I want you to do now is to compare the 7 Noahide laws with the 10 commandments and do a compare and contrast job. And you can tell me what, maybe make a video in response, or maybe tell me what the compare and contrast is between the 10 commandments and the Noahide laws in the comments underneath this video. Maybe you could also tell me too whether you think that the Noahide laws, and that's the actual laws themselves, not, you can't do like a straw man and say that the Noahide laws are something else, Like, I don't know, like for example, I could say, oh, the Noahide laws say you can't drive around in a red car, and I've just made that up, right? So you have to critique and evaluate the Noahide laws as they actually are. So tell me whether they actually, to your mind, with using your independent capacity for critical thinking, whether you think the Noahide laws as described, not making up, not reinterpreting them and including stuff that's not there, are they a good or bad idea? Final thing to say is, maybe I'll do a whole video about this, but this kind of idea of, the Eskimos are responsible for all the world's problems. There is one group of people you could point the finger at. You could say, it was the British that invented the concentration camp. It was the British that firebombed Dresden when the war was over. It was the British that were the cheerleaders for killing off 1.5 million Iraqis. And then the other thing to do as well would be, okay, what's going on in Gaza is not great. I think estimates are about 70,000 people have been killed in Gaza. In Iraq, it was 1.5 million. So my question is, but don't get me wrong, terrible things, right? But is 1.5 million a bigger or a smaller number than 70,000? Because the thing is that, for people going on about Gaza, my question to you would be why are you so quiet about other crimes that have been committed by your government? Like Tony Blair got elected with a landslide majority. A clear majority of British people voted for Blair. If you look at the history of recent elections in Israel, Netanyahu, his majority is wafer thin. He relies on coalitions. So you can't really say that the majority of people living in this place called Israel actually support what's being done by, their government. Same as, what you'd say is, I would never blame an ordinary British person for what David Cameron did in Libya, turning Libya into a failed state, and there's a slave market in Tripoli. That's terrible, absolutely terrible. But would I blame an ordinary, say that every single British person is to blame for the actions of David Cameron in Libya? Of course I wouldn't. It'd be stupid. So it's important, I think, for us to be sensible about this and realise that we're all unique. The only example of us that would ever exist, that will ever exist, and we shouldn't kind of view individuals that come from particular places on the map as identikit, homogenous. They're all the same. How would you like it if people started making those sorts of assumptions about Brits? And believe me, I think they'd have, there's plenty of bad things that people could say about British people, and say that the British people have, they've been to blame for some of the most horrible things that have happened in human history. All the things that happened in the British Empire. Again, I want to reiterate this, I don't blame myself for any of that, because I don't even vote these days. I've wised up, I've realised that the problem is government, and it's wrong to hold ordinary people in a particular country accountable for the actions of the government, because this is the way that democracy works. Like Starmer was elected, he got a landslide majority on the basis of only about a quarter of the electorate voting. So you can't hold up people who live in a particular country responsible for the actions of a handful of psychopaths. That's just stupid, properly done. So, of course, the big club all loves that. They love that. They want you to pick their sides all the time. Israeli versus Palestinian. And then the problem actually is that they control both sides anyway. And they just want to divide and rule and get you to hate the other side. So yes, that's all I want to say today. So God bless.